Hello. Welcome back. Hello. TWLOHA at home. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jamie Tworkowski. I am the founder of To Write Love on Our Arms, and I get to be here on behalf of our amazing team. And we are spread out all over, working from home. Our friend Ruthie is holding down the warehouse, shipping out online orders. And it's been a privilege for me to get to represent our team and to keep showing up here twice a week. And we love that you've been showing up as well. It's been really cool to invite friends of the organization, special guests, to join us for these conversations. We've got a great guest today. My puppy is next to me, causing trouble. Miles Adcox, who is an amazing friend of mine. He is the CEO of something called Onsite that you'll be hearing a lot about. I live now in East Nashville. Miles lives in Nashville as well. Onsite is based about 45 minutes outside the city. They have a beautiful property, I believe, just west of the city. I'm certain it's beautiful. I've been there. I've gotten help there, and I think it's west. Before we bring on Miles, just want to share a few announcements. Want to always point you to the Fear Won't Win landing page that we've created on our website. It's TWLOHA.com, TWLOHA.com. And when you get there, you will see the words Fear Won't Win. And we continue to add to that. We continue to add tools and resources that we hope can be helpful in this time, encouraging things related to self-care, especially this week we've added Zoom backgrounds. We continue to update the playlist episodes and blog posts that we're pointing to there. And then want to transition to probably the biggest thing on our radar, on our calendar at the moment, is our Run For It 5K, which is coming up Saturday, May 16th. And not only is it one of the biggest events we do throughout the year, it's one of the biggest fundraising campaigns for us every single year. And traditionally, there's a physical race where close to 1,000 people run together in Central Florida. And then we see people also run virtually in all 50 states and around the world. We had to cancel the physical Satellite Beach, Florida race for obvious reasons, but we love that we're still able to offer this virtually. And at the moment, we have close to 2,200 people signed up. And you don't have to run. If you want to run, you can, but you can also walk, you can push a stroller, you can push a wheelchair. The whole idea is we are inviting people to move for something that matters, whether that is someone you've lost, maybe to addiction or to suicide. Some people run on behalf of their own story, their own recovery. Maybe they run on behalf of someone they're concerned about, someone who is struggling right now. We love seeing those stories, those reasons, and we love that we didn't have to cancel this altogether, that we can still do this. And I believe we have all 50 states represented, and then we also have people participating in 18 countries around the world. So this is something global, and we are excited about that. A couple cool details. I mentioned the fundraising. We've set a goal of raising $85,000 through this event, through Run For It 5K. We are about halfway to that goal. When you create a fundraising page, you get a $10 credit in the To Write Love on Our Arms online store. So we love being able to offer that. And once you raise $150, if your fundraising page raises $150, I believe it's the first 100 people who do that, you are going to get a free lunch from Chipotle. And who doesn't love Chipotle? So again, you can learn a lot more on our website. It's runforit5k.com, and you can also find it through TWLOHA.com. So again, Saturday, May 16th, we would love to have you wherever you are, whatever life looks like, and would certainly love to invite you to think about fundraising or supporting a fundraiser. And last but not least, the 320 Fest is coming up in early May, May 8th, 9th, and 10th. I mentioned this Tuesday, but it is an amazing intersection of music and mental health. And this has been born thanks to Linda Bennington, who is the widow of Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, and Kevin Lyman, who many of you know from the Warped Tour. Kevin is the founder of the Warped Tour. So these two, along with an amazing team of other people, have been working on this for months. And this was supposed to happen in Los Angeles, and similar to our 5K, well, a little different, but we're able to make the whole thing happen online. And I'm excited to be speaking on a panel. So you can learn more about that. Again, it's 320 Festival. We'll keep you posted on the details of when I'm speaking and when some specific things are happening. But we're honored to be included in the first ever 320 Fest. I lied. This is last but not least. We have a Find Help tool that we're incredibly proud of. You'll see in the top right corner of our homepage on TWLOHA.com, you'll see the words self-care, and right next to that, Find Help. If you click on Find Help, you can enter your zip code and instantly get a list of local resources. There are filters you can use to narrow it down in ways that apply to you to get the help that you need. But we love that wherever you are across the United States, you can connect with counseling centers, treatment centers, crisis hotlines, support groups, whatever it may be, anywhere, not just big cities, but small towns, rural communities. So we love to invite people, check out our website, specifically take advantage of the Find Help tool. If you have any specific questions around connecting with help, around finding help, you can email findhelp@twloha.com. And for any general questions for our team, any general questions about... Gracie has a question. Hey, just keeping it real. Any general questions for our team or general questions about the organization, you can email info@twloha.com. And with that, I'm excited to bring on my friend Miles Adcox from Onsite. Oh. He should be joining us any moment. My man.
Hey.
You're so much better dressed than me. I guess we're just being ourselves. We're playing our parts.
It's just the top part, man. I've got my joggers on at the bottom here.
Okay, sweet.
I've had several calls today, so I haven't been getting dressed up much, so it was kind of
well,
nice.
you're looking sharp. You could be a professor right now.
Thanks.
Man, how are you doing? I know we're a few miles apart, but how are you doing today?
You know, today's been a pretty good day overall. It's been nice to kind of ease back into things. I've been going at a little slower pace over the last few weeks due to some things I've been navigating. But the last 2 days, I've probably had more work than I have in the last couple weeks, and it's actually been nice to get back into things a little. So it's been a good day.
That's awesome. Well, if it's cool with you, we can kind of jump around. For those who don't know you, could you talk a little bit about Onsite, where that is, and what happens, the work you guys get to do there?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'm incredibly fortunate and honored to get to lead an amazing team of kind of thought leaders, therapists, people in the guides in the personal growth space. But we run a therapeutic retreat center, personal growth retreat center that specializes in just emotional health, emotional wellness, trauma. There's a few different arms of our service, but we're located on a campus west of Nashville. You got that right early on. You're getting your direction down. It's about 45 minutes just outside of town. So
wait, it has a cool name, Cumberland
Furnace, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so it's on 250 acres. It's just gorgeous land. And we've got about a 100-bed retreat center out there. We run short-term therapeutic workshops, and we also have a longer-term residential program. And then, of course, due to the current circumstances, we've now got a lot of online options as well.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I know, I believe it was Triumph Over Tragedy. That's the name of the program you guys were running kind of as not only the world changed, but as this pandemic really showed up here in the States. And I wonder if you could talk about that program and maybe what that week was like for you.
I can. Yeah. Wow. That feels like a year ago, even though it was just a few short weeks ago, or maybe a month and a half ago. I'm not even sure of the timeline, but so we are fortunate to partner with an amazing group of an alumni, many of which who work in the entertainment industry and have been through our programs at Onsite, and have a separate entity called the Onsite Foundation, which we are able to diversify our socioeconomic reach and target some niche vulnerable populations and try to curate initiatives and programs to help tackle kind of some global issues, particularly as it relates to our specialty in mental health. And this is one of them. I've been involved with survivors of mass shootings, really going all the way back to Columbine. I had a good friend that we lost last year. Actually, he lost a battle to addiction. But that he was just an incredible champion in the mental health space and in the addiction space, that I got to know personally. But also, I've just worked with, being in the mental health space for 20 years. I've worked with a lot of survivors of mass shootings, and Vegas hit really close to home. So Route 91, being working in and around the music industry here in Nashville, I had so many friends that were there. So my phone, I wasn't there, but my phone started ringing that night immediately, and probably debriefed no less than 300 people plus that were there as part of the music industry. So I've just been close enough to that. And then there were a lot of other people that came together, and we were realizing that, well, there was a mass shooting happening almost every day of last year, if you collectively put them all together. And there weren't good collective resources for this community. There were a lot of really good initiatives and good efforts, and I'm thankful for all of the ones that have been put together. But we wanted to try to come in and offer a resource that was really grounded in trauma-informed care. And so that was the first of its kind. We put together a great committee around the country of people who specialize in this inside and outside of our organization. And we brought in, I think the number was around 50 survivors of mass shootings for free that had been at several different incidences around the country, and gave them an opportunity to do a week-long trauma program. And so that was the last program we actually ran live before we had to push pause on our programs. And it was challenging on a couple of reasons. One, it was a first of its kind program. In that particular population, who I've just grown to love, they carry the weight of a pretty significant form of trauma that is unique to them and that we're just learning a lot about. And then you put that on top of a global pandemic. And so I remember day one when we were trying to make the decision based on how quickly the press was saying, we're getting ready to lock down the country and stop travel and do these things. And half the people had flown in, the other half had not. So we had half people at airports in Nashville, and we were in the moment trying to decide, do we reschedule this thing? Do we cancel this thing? What's the right thing to do? And I felt like we were weighing it against people's mental health, which is essential. And so I think we did the right thing. We greenlit the program and kept it as safe as we could. And thank goodness nobody got affected by COVID, and folks had an amazing experience. So yeah, thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And then I wonder what, you guys are used to serving people, physically together in person at your property, and you've had to transition away from that. And so I wonder what that has been like for you and for your team, and also for these folks that maybe for months have been looking forward to coming.
It's been tough. In my years of leadership, particularly in mental health, which has been most of my professional career, I don't know that I've ever navigated anything of this stature. It's been unprecedented. Not just the effort our team is making to support what's happening out in culture, both with our clientele and others, but just running an organization in the midst of all this has been tough and overwhelming. So our short-term workshops is kind of the core part of our business. Even though I mentioned earlier, we also run a residential element too that specializes in trauma, depression, anxiety. We could have probably made a case that it was essential because it is in many ways. But the way our model's set up and our campus is set up, we just couldn't honestly, Jamie, figure out a way to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
So it felt like the right thing to do because many of our people fly in from all over the country. They're there 50, 60, 70 at a time. And it just didn't, and for a short amount of time. And we just couldn't come up with a way to manage that. So we pushed pause on the core part of our business, and the long-term residential, of course, the federal and state level mandated that was essential. So that was an easy decision and not easy to navigate logistically. It's been really tough trying to make sure we're providing adequate, good care, but giving people optimal opportunities to get tested prior to coming in, and just all the challenges you can make up that would come with running a residential treatment program during this time. But we had a choice at that time as a team, because we weren't necessarily digitally savvy. We had done everything we've done up until now has been in person. We've had dreams of doing things online, just because we know that the younger generation, that's how they're getting their content. But we didn't really know how to do it. And I remember looking at our team that first couple of days and said, we have to decide, and we have to decide fast. And I've always been a bit of a recovering perfectionist, and it's hard for me to put a program out or launch an initiative that I don't feel has been just tested and curated and really well thought out and done. And this took that option away. It was like, you know what, we got to put it out there if we want to help people, and it's not going to be perfect. And I am so proud of our team because they did an amazing job. And I know pivot is a word that's really trending right now in leadership circles and business and everywhere, but they really did a fantastic job pivoting and took all of our programming online like within a week. And I'm happy to report, because I know you referenced earlier some of our programming that you're familiar with, Living Centered program and others. But we've already run several groups through our group online programming and our individual intensives, and the results we're getting are amazing. I was a part of a Living Centered program online closing yesterday, and to get the feedback of people's experience was so touching. So I wasn't sure, if I'm honest. Don't get me wrong, there's been people that pioneered the online therapy space. It's been going on for quite a while, and it's so essential for so many people that can't do it in person. But our model, it's highly interactive, it's highly creative. And
group therapy too.
That too. We were trying to figure out how can we do this where it translates and it's us and not what kind of everybody else is doing. So our team just got in a room and got super creative, and we've been able to make it translate, and it's been working really well. So I'm so glad we're able to offer that resource to folks.
Yeah, I do want to mention for you guys watching, we love, every time we have a guest, we love taking your questions. So not just my questions. There's a little question mark icon at the bottom of your screen next to the comment box. So if, as Miles is talking, you're curious about his work, what they do at Onsite, we would love to get to some of your questions, and we'll sprinkle those in throughout. I'm sure it feels good to obviously to not have to cancel, but also to make what you do more affordable, more accessible, especially in a time when there's so much need, right? When so many people are talking about anxiety and mental health. And I wonder just trying to figure out how to word it, but maybe what is some of the feedback you've been getting, and maybe even short of that, what are some of the needs unique to this moment that you guys are hearing about?
A couple of years ago, Jamie, I started taking the concept of emotional health and intelligence into other industries. Particularly, I've spent most of my time in entertainment, particularly music, but other industries have become really savvy to paying attention to what the next generation is telling us they want permission to talk about in the workplace. So my team has probably spent more time on the front lines of our normal lane in mental health. I probably spent more time on the phone with other organizations and other industries trying to support them on how they're navigating the stress of this thing. But I appreciate what you said. I mean, historically, we've diversified our socioeconomic reach through our foundation partnership, but that's been limiting. And we part of what we hang our hat on is clinical talent. We just kind of go after the best of the best, which comes at a cost. And it's not that mental health discriminates. People who have means and people who don't have means have this, we understand, have some similar sets of issues, although it's unfortunate that some can afford to get good resources and often some can't. We've always wanted to figure out lower cost options and things that we could do that were scalable but still quality. And that's what this is allowing us to dip our feet in a little bit. So we've got some new Gracie.
Hey, stop. We're having an important talk. I'm gonna send Gracie to Onsite.
Nothing more important than that little girl there. But hey. We've got some stuff we're going to be rolling out in the next 2 weeks that will be hopefully way more accessible for people who don't have resources for our normal programs. And tune in right now because we're offering free webinars and a lot of free content every day, and more of that's going to come. I was on the call with our foundation board today, and we're rolling out a program for healthcare professionals on the front line. That's going to be free access for their mental health. So a lot of good stuff coming. So tune in for more of that. And you ask also as part of that is, what are we, you can tell I can roll right through this because I've got a house full of pups too.
Stop.
You ask, what am I seeing out there? I guess if I had to summarize it, I would say I've never seen more collective, and this is it's obvious in some ways and maybe not, but more collective stress and anxiety. So it's, and ultimately that's trauma is compound stress. But I'm seeing a lot of it right now because we're kind of all faced with the things that can activate that the most, which is uncertainty, isolation, and loss of control. Those three things alone psychologically are the things we fear the most, and we're all dealing with them in a compound way. So I'm seeing a significant amount of stress and anxiety out there.
I feel like you've done a great job, even long before this, of talking about how basic needs factor into mental health, right? How we have to address, if someone can't pay their rent or they can't buy groceries, we can't simply talk about their depression without talking about that. And I wonder how you feel like those basic needs and some, even the financial struggle for so many people, how that relates to this moment.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's the way our brain works, is we need our basic needs met, food, water, shelter, before we can move into the parts of the brain where stress and trauma may be, because ultimately we can't even begin to bring our ambient stress level down, get our feet on the ground and neutralize until we feel some sense of safety. And right now, a lot of people's safety is compromised, either realistically through the health, if you're immunocompromised, or if you're dealing with, you've lost your job. That was the number one fear for 80% of people in our country prior to this economic crisis, was money.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's the least talked about thing in therapy, which is ironic. Is we've just kind of shied away, largely because most people in the mental health profession aren't that good with money, I think, is why we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But seeing that has escalated, absolutely. So for a lot of my colleagues and friends out there that are in the mental health space, and even those, all of us are right now, we just need to broaden that sphere, because all of us, just by being an active listener and a mirror and an empathetic human being to another person, you're supporting people with mental health, is don't take it back to the basics and ask people about their basic needs. How you doing with being hydrated? Are you exercising? Are you meditating? Are you breathing? The most important question you can ask anybody right now.
Yeah.
And then of course there'll be time to get into some of the more psychologically difficult things. But I think you're spot on with what you teed up there.
I want to switch gears. You kind of alluded to it, but I know there's so much need for. It's such a moment where I'm sure you want to be able to show up as a leader, as not only the leader of Onsite, but as a leader in this field. And you've been dealing with some significant health challenges that are not COVID-19, but I know you were in and out of the hospital. And I imagine when we talked earlier, so I know you've had to slow down, and we even kind of zoomed out and kind of laughed about how 2020 has not looked the way we imagined it. And I wonder if you could talk about what that process has been like over the last several weeks.
Yeah. Uh, the thing I mentioned about uncertainty and loss of control, uh, those two things really have been escalated for me in the last few weeks. In that I've been, as you reflected, and I've been public about some of this, and some of it's so new I haven't really talked about it much, other than my team knows, obviously, and my family. But uh, they landed on a diagnosis on Monday, although it's been a 3 weeks of significant testing, because I started dealing with, out of nowhere, kind of on the second week of this, severe vertigo-based symptoms, which really is just dizziness and blurry vision, and never had that before. And so if you've never had something like that, obviously anything that can be neurological in nature, they have to rule out worst case scenarios. And so I woke up one morning a few weeks ago and stepped out of my bed to go check on my daughter, who's been, which is her first birthday today.
Yeah.
She turns 1 today, but she's been teething and doing what she's supposed to do, which is waking up in the middle of the night. So it was 4 a.m. and I got up to go check on her and just fell when I got out of my bed. And boy, it scared me. I don't know if people who've had experiences like that physically, where your brain knows right away something's not right. I knew something wasn't right. And so thankfully I'm surrounded with a lot of awesome professionals in both the healthcare and mental health care side. So I got on the phone right away with our medical director out at Milestones and said, what's going on? I can't see my screen. I can't, and so they got me in an emergency MRI, which this was literally in the heat of the lockdown and the
Yeah.
COVID. It's the last place you want to go. But man, I'm telling you, I had a spiritual experience in that MRI machine. And I've been in them before, but not under these circumstances. And boy, I had some deep conversations in that experience. But anyway, I haven't really walked through the timeline with many people yet, and I'll try to make it brief, just because I know our time here. But thankfully, thank God, they ruled out the majority, and have ruled out the majority of critical possibilities that can come along with those symptoms. And they kind of had it in the camp of some kind of vertigo or vestibular challenges, but they couldn't quite figure out what it was, because a lot of the symptoms did subside. And I ended up back in the hospital one other time for another condition, just terrible timing. And my truck got stolen in the middle of all that. It was a wild few weeks. But this Monday, they discovered that previous head trauma, which I had some early concussions, and then also had a serious horseback accident in 2008, which I didn't realize, but had made my vestibular system, which is the inside of my ear, which connects to your midbrain, which basically communicates and is responsible for balance and vision. It had made me vulnerable, just like an immune system can be vulnerable, to whiplash, or even sleeping or a crick in your neck can throw it all off. And in February, I had another incident where I was speaking at an event and having some fun on a surf machine, and kind of fell back and had a little bit of a whiplash. And I got it on video. I was showing it to my neurologist the other day, and they think that's part of what shook this thing loose. And so right now, that's where they're landing, is that it's a form of concussive, or kind of, I may not be using the right words if there's doctors or scientists on the phone, but kind of a traumatic brain impact, but one in which they're highly optimistic that I'm going to be able to recover, but it's going to be a challenge. So I'm going to be maybe 7 to 12 weeks of what they call vestibular neuro rehab. And so it's kind of brain rehab, vision rehab. And so I've started that, and I'll be doing a lot more of that. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of rewire, because the main thing that's hanging around now is just a lack of balance, which it takes you right back to what you asked in the beginning. How's it been to be sidelined? You didn't say that, but that's really what's happened. And it's not been easy. I'm good at supporting other people in sitting still, particularly when they need to. But I struggle with it. I think I've probably put an emphasis on my mental health quite well. And I think I've taken care of the emotional side of stress pretty well. But I've not paid as much attention on the physical side. So I didn't have a primary care doctor up until a month ago. You know, I didn't have some of these things, but I've had therapists for years, and they both are vitally important. So I've thankfully had a good team of medical professionals around me that have been helping, but I've learned that I've got to pay attention. And initially I thought before before they knew what it was, I thought it was all stress related.
Yeah.
But I've since learned that it's not. It can't be, but that stress has a lot to do with the recovery of it. So I'm getting ready to get a big dose of practicing what I preach into action. But it's been a challenge to lean on others, like not being able to drive and things that I just probably have taken for granted, and being mobile, particularly in a time where I feel like my skill set could really be used and is needed. And I'm just not able to give it to the level that I was. I'm able to do things like this, which has
Yeah.
been fun to kind of get back into the mix a little bit the last couple of days. But I'm following what the doctors advise and not doing too much. But they're actually saying that getting my prefrontal is good, which is
Yeah.
in good shape. But getting back involved in this actually can be a healthy part of the rehabilitation part, as long as you manage the stress of it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, man. I want to remind you guys, we'd love to get to some questions of yours. So if you have a question for Miles about Onsite, about his life, about this unique, difficult season we find ourselves in, if you have a question for me about the organization, we'd love to sprinkle those in and invite you into the conversation. Again, it's the little question mark icon at the bottom. With that, I imagine it's been a mix of having to navigate it on your own. But in terms of just the challenge of feeling somewhat sidelined, has it been your wife, mentors, friends, like doctor, who's helping you, maybe who's encouraging you that, hey, it's okay that you have to slow down right now? Like what has that felt like?
So the people that you mentioned, and I've done an okay job of reaching out to my inner circle. I was doing really well. Here's kind of, and I think hopefully a lot of people can relate to this. When I feel some level of control about an outcome, or when I've got a clear path that there is some certainty on how I'm going to get from here to here, even though it's going to be a storm to navigate, I'm much more likely to lean into resources and to ask people, because that's a little bit less vulnerable than reaching out to people in a season where you just don't know the other side of it. And so I would say I've gone in and out of that. I was explaining on another interview a few weeks ago how it's felt a little bit like guardrails, where one day I'll be on hope and optimism, and the other day on just insecurity and uncertainty and fear. And I'm kind of just bouncing off of both a little, which I think a lot of people are right now. And that's okay. I think we should have permission to do that. But I had one of my best friends, Marianne, I was talking to a couple of days ago, and let her know that there was another kind of circumstance I was navigating medically that has my diet very, very restrictive right now, which has been hard to navigate because of just the nature of getting groceries and all that stuff. And which I feel bad even saying that, because there's so many people going without food right now. But anyway, nonetheless, I was just telling her that I was really just hungry most of the time because I don't have, and she got all over me in a loving way. She was like, "What the hell are you doing? You realize I would go help you do this, this, and this?" And I was like, "Of course." It kind of snapped me out of it a little bit. And I was like, right. I got a lot of people that care about me, and I need to be leaning in and asking for the right support. And I think I've done the stuff I know and believe in. There's small groups of people that I'm super close with that I get emotional support from, and we've been doing these kind of things in Zoom calls. But when it comes to those physical needs, I can go right back to the independent caveman status. Like, I got this.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for sharing. We got a couple questions that have come in. Let's see. Oh, so this is one related to Onsite alumni. Has leadership considered doing virtual sessions or meetups for Onsite alumni?
Yes. We have and just announced that, I think, maybe 2, 3 days ago. And correct me if I'm wrong. I saw a couple people on our team on here. So if I miss our alumni specifically to anchor in with maybe the guide that they worked with while they were there.
Yeah.
So check out, reach out to our team and check out our website for alumni offerings that we just made available.
No, that sounds right. I saw that email a couple weeks ago. I was encouraging a friend to take advantage of that. Um, let's see. So really just kind of a simple question, but important. How can we show friends we care? You mentioned addressing basic needs. Can you talk about those again?
Yeah. I think in this season, don't assume uh, that people have day-to-day things covered.
Yeah.
Phil asked.
I put my cup down and she heard it.
Oh,
She's
Grace.
protecting us really well.
Um,
Nothing.
and this is something you hear me say all the time. I think if I were to summarize, I've been really fortunate to have a front row seat to tens of thousands of people walk through adverse life circumstances, recover, and move to the other side. And people have often asked me, what is the thing that, if you could summarize it down, what do you actually do? What do you see people do? And I was like, really, we help people say the unsaid and speak the unspoken. Sometimes that's going back into their story. Sometimes it's current. Sometimes it's speaking truth into the future of who they are and who they're becoming. Right now, I think people need a little bit more of an invitation into that and often a gentle prompt. And so show somebody you care, pick up the phone and check in with somebody. But don't just ask a question, what do you need? That's a really kind question, but often it's an overwhelming one when people don't even really know what their needs are. So it's kind of like I was helping a friend who was affected by the tornadoes as a colleague just before all this stuff happened. And my first call to her, which it's okay too to be clumsy in this process. Don't let it, there's no perfect formula for trying to connect with somebody when they're in struggle. But I reached out and kind of asked that question, what do you need? And I saw that kind of glazed over look, the same look that I had in 2010 when the Nashville flood was here and I lost everything I owned because
Yeah.
my home was underwater for 4 and my house got everybody came around to help and they
Yeah.
were so well intended, but everyone was asking me what I need and I didn't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know right now. So try to think ahead a little bit. If it's a friend and you know them well, think ahead and think about what it is that you might be able to preemptively offer
Mm.
and just make a statement about that versus making it a question because a question implies that there's an answer and an
Yeah.
answer is a lot right now. It means that we got to get it right. And often we just go to this white space. So
Beautiful.
try to turn your questions into loving statements
Mm.
and try to just help, kind of lean in and nudge people into their needs. Even if you get it wrong, you give them the gift of clarifying what it is that they might need in terms of support. And that whole process will let them know that you care.
Yeah. Something we talk a lot about. I'd love to get your take on it, but is sometimes leading with vulnerability. So when we want someone to share or to be honest or to talk about what's hard, I love what you said, and I think that's the way to go. But maybe this is kind of a subplot or secondary. Just do you, what's your take on sort of the idea that sometimes when we admit what's hard, when we admit some of our needs and struggles, that we give other people permission to do that as well. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I think I've always subscribed. I've always believed in the science of vulnerability, and I subscribe to it both in leadership and in life. Historically, I think I have been more apt to share a little bit about an experience once I had gotten some clarity and some recovery around it.
Mm.
But I think right now, um, I'm seeing more and more people in leadership be honest about exactly where they are, even if the wheels are falling off in the moment. And I think it's okay. And
Yeah.
I've been doing some of that because I think that's often, that's the permission that we need to be able to, it's a mirror moment, like you talked about. It's ultimately, if you want to open people up, then let them know that you're open.
Yeah. No, man, that's good. Thank you guys for your questions. Again, we love not just hearing from each other, but hearing from you. So feel free to submit a question. Let's see. Oh, I already know this answer, but I want to hear it from you. Are there mottos or phrases you tell yourselves in this time? I got one from Onsite that I'm a fan of. Well, I know you guys are big on trust the process.
Mm.
Um, and I think maybe in the typical context, it's for people showing up there and they're out of their comfort zone and what am I doing? How's this going to go? Just reminding people to trust the process of the help they're getting and trust the process of their recovery. That's one that I've loved, that I've been able to borrow from Onsite.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I would echo that. I think there are two statements or phrases that I love, which you just referenced one, trust the process. And to me, that has a deeper implication than probably earlier than I gave it credit for, because I do think even at Onsite, when we invite people into kind of a curated space where you can let your guard down and be who you really are, we ask you to trust the process that we've set up for you to be able to heal. But really, it's more than that. The process is really not anything outside of you, but it's what's within you.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we're inviting you to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And I would say that often really good mental health care professionals are just good guides, and they already know that you've got what you need inside of you, and they're
Yeah.
just there to help you unlike it. That's the process we're asking you to trust is you've got what you need, particularly when you get somebody that is loving beside you. The part two, the other phrase we use is celebrate the miracles. And I couldn't emphasize that enough right now. I've needed that. That has gotten me through the challenging days, is finding a little patch of blue among the gray.
Yeah.
And I have found it. It's amazing. I say I found it a lot of times. It was just handed to me by, my beliefs in God and higher power, but it was unbelievable. Like one of my worst nights was at Vanderbilt's ER on Easter night at 3 a.m, not knowing what my test results were, or honestly, if I'd come home, if I'm honest. And in the midst of that, I had an ER nurse who actually she worked in as a life flight nurse, but was covered in ER. And she came in, and she was suited up in her hazmat suit as all the medical professionals that were coming into the room at that time. And she said, and I just assumed she was there to run more tests or poke and prod or do whatever. And she said, I just wanted to come in and visit. I'm on a quick break, and I know we can't have visitors right now, and I wanted to come visit you. And I was like, well, why would you do that? And she said, well, I'm an alumni of your program, and it changed my life. And I saw your name on the board, and I hope you don't mind. I wanted to come share how your work changed me, and hope that will be encouraging to you. So that was my patch of blue. It turned my whole experience around. And that went from being like, man, I'm so bummed I had to be here, to being like, what a great way to bring in Easter morning,
Yeah.
And so celebrate the miracles.
Yeah. I think I've been trying to remind people too, we only have to do this one day at a time right now. It gets overwhelming when we wonder what will a year from now or 6 months from now, we don't know exactly what next week or next month might look like. And so just trying to really take this one day at a time. And I think I don't know, for me, that's been helpful. Just this idea of day to day, moment to moment. No, man, that's good stuff. Have you read Glennon's new book?
Well, I am 2 chapters in, and ironically, the first day that all this happened, not the first day, the first few days that all this happened, I was having to make a really, really difficult leadership choice. And it was just it was weighing me so heavy. And so I called a friend who's a good friend of hers. It's a mentor, a friend of mine. And I just said, I feel like I'm drowning right now in the weight of this decision. And I don't know how in the heck I'm going to lead through this. Uh, and she said, I want you to read a story. And so she turned me on to the opening story of Glennon's book about the
Yeah.
cheetah. And it was amazing. So yeah, I'm can't wait to get through it more,
Yeah.
but I'm such a big fan of her words and her work. And
No,
I'm sure
I
it
feel
just
like
keeps
it,
getting better.
yeah, I feel like it relates to trust the process for sure. And even just what you talked about, how it, not just asking people to trust Onsite, but to trust the good in them, and to trust, I don't know, I feel like you'll really enjoy it. Yeah, she's wonderful. You cool with doing another question or two?
Of course, yeah.
All right. I know you got some form of a first birthday party to get to. uh, let's see. Thank you guys. There's a bunch. So let's see. Top 3 tips for people who find their previous self-care plan falling short in isolation.
Hmm. Uh, I would say, you may take it?
Yeah,
I would say innovate, create, and connect around your self care right now. It requires a retooling. And sometimes, just like Jamie shared, um, a day at a time, a moment at a time, that's actually a good thing. Not that it's failing, obviously, that doesn't feel good,
sure.
but that you've got the awareness to see that this needs to change and pivot. Because it should. Everybody should right now, particularly because we are more isolated than we've ever been, which that's the things we fear the most, as I mentioned earlier. Um, 3 other things that help me that are very basic is to reflect.
Oh,
Oh, uh, reflect, reset, and reconnect. And I shared this in another, basically, exactly what you did. You're in the reflection phase. What's not working about my self care right now? Boom. Honest, huge, important, brave question. You just gave yourself permission to reset it. And
yeah,
reset it often does what you just did. You ask another person, what can I do? Now, if we had time, I'd like to whiteboard it, do a little, here, what are you doing? But somebody else might be able to do that for you, or maybe you might be able to do it through your own journaling process. But by reflecting and then resetting, you just gave you and me an opportunity to reconnect to the idea that it matters and it's important. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The roadmap may not be real clear, but you're asking the right questions.
yeah. No, that's so good. I think too. I feel like hope. Oh, also get a dog. It's a lot of work, but it's worth
That's
it.
probably the best advice you could have.
um, but I think just remembering that pretty much everyone's plans have gone sideways at this point, whether it's self-care, business. I mean, millions of adults or millions of parents are having to figure out how to do homeschool in the midst of this, right? So just, I think giving ourselves grace where, I mean, we talked about it earlier, like just that 2020, none of us imagined that it would look this way. And if you told us we'd have a week like this, that would be really hard. And here we are, it's been over a month. And so I think just knowing that so many people, millions of people around the world are trying to figure out what you're figuring out, right? And I think what you talked about, like just everyone's having to get creative. Everyone's having to figure out what options are no longer on the table, and okay, here's what self-care used to look like. Some of that can't happen, or it has to happen differently. But I think just knowing that, man, that you're not alone in that so literally millions of people are having to figure that out. But I love what you said, where, man, how cool is it that you're even thinking about that you're not only thinking about it, but being really honest about the fact that some of it's not working and that bothers you. But also I love sort of maybe even the silver lining of what does it look like to sort of dream in the midst of this, to be creative. And I tell people some of why we're doing these Instagram lives is as an example of using technology you know, me and you, we're both, we get to do this because we both have phones, but we can, you know, you can FaceTime your friends, you can call your family, you can host a Google Hangout or a Zoom. So I think just trying to remind people that in a moment when so many things have been canceled, that not everything has been canceled, right? That we still have some tools and resources that we can use, not just in general, but even as it relates to our mental health.
Yeah, and for the person that asked that question, I know you said something important on the end. I want to make sure we just don't gloss over what you said. If it's failing, because failing can mean a lot. That could mean that it might really have you in a spot of struggle right now. And so I would just encourage you to take what we both shared, which are some practical ways of thinking through it. But also, before this call's over, if you could identify one person,
Mm.
if you have a person
Oh,
call there, I'm back.
okay.
One person that you could call to ask that question to, and do that today. Do
Mm.
that in the next couple hours. I know the phone can feel like 1,000 pounds if you feel like you're drowning, but pick the phone up, identify the one person, even if you don't feel that close to them, and ask that question to them. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. Hey, I know we need to let you celebrate your daughter today, but I wonder for someone who's thinking, man, I feel like I need more help than maybe my friends can provide. I need more help than my family can offer right now. What are some of the services that you guys at Onsite are able to offer folks in this moment?
Yeah, so we've got all of our normal group workshops and intensives now digital. And of course, we've got a longer term residential program. Uh, we have some products coming out in the next week or two that are going to be kind of daily reminders and prompts around emotional health and intelligence that hopefully will be supportive. Um, but keep in mind, I'm proud of our resource, but it's one resource, and
Sure.
there are a lot of really good counseling resources out there. And so I don't want to, I think in the beginning of the call, I said, in a sense, we're all professionals right now because we're all in this together. But don't underestimate the skill of a professional. And there are a whole lot of people in the professional counseling and mental health world that are donating and giving hours away right now if you don't have the resources. So reach out for an online session. If we're a spot, is this only for? No, it's not only for military people. I saw somebody ask that. We do support first responders, military folks, but not only. But I would say find professional support to reach out to if you feel that your friend circle or your family is not enough, and give that a go. And just be persistent. If you run into time obligations, financial limitations, a good match, don't stop at 2, don't stop at 5, don't stop at 10. Sometimes the 10th person that you reach out to is the person that will change your life. And a lot of times people think that the first call to counseling should be the call.
Mm.
And don't look at it like that. It's kind of like dating in a way.
Yeah.
You're going to have to move through some people to find the right resource, but the right resource is out there, and I encourage you to reach out for it.
Yeah. Um, Obviously, we want to encourage people follow Miles, follow Onsite. It's Onsite Workshops on Instagram. What's the website?
Onsiteworkshops.com.
Yeah, so just so much good information, so many different programs. I'm part of the alumni. I'm proud to say I've been through the Living Centered program, which I believe is your most popular program, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So, man, thank you for spending an hour with us. Thank you. I'm just so proud to know you even a little, and just grateful for your voice and your work, and also the way you just mix in vulnerability and empathy, and just I love your brain, but I love that you share your heart as well. And so thank you for being here today.
This was as much for me as it was for anybody else, just getting reconnected. Obviously, you're a voice and a friend that I trust. And so I get that there were other people as being a part of this, but it felt like it was just you, me, and Gracie at times. She was definitely in it. But honestly, thanks for inviting me into this, and thanks for the important work you're doing. It's no easy thing to do this every day. and it's don't underestimate how many people it's touching.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for having me a part of this conversation.
Thank you, man. Well, I'll let you go. Hope to talk to you soon. I hope Birdie has a great first birthday. Tell,
So
oh, please tell Vanessa I said hello.
I will. I'll go tell her right now. We're getting ready to go put the hats on and celebrate my baby girl. So I hope you, hey, thanks for joining along, you guys. I hope everybody has a great evening.
Yeah. Thank you, Miles.
All right. Bye, Jamie.
Okay. So that was Miles Adcox, such a special guy. Again, Miles is the CEO at Onsite. You can follow him at Miles Adcox. You can follow Onsite at Onsite Workshops. Again, the website is onsiteworkshops.com. And he touched on something I think is really important and really, really humble. They don't only want, they're not the only option for people who need professional help. I say we on behalf of our team, we love to point to the Find Help tool that I touched on at the beginning of our conversation. So anyone in the US, you can click on the words Find Help in the top right corner of our website, enter your zip code, and you can find local mental health resources, including free and reduced rate services in your local community. We think that's so important. And also, really significant in this moment, you can find online support groups. So if you need to see a counselor, you can do that. But if you're just curious about joining some kind of support group that can't meet in person right now, you can do that simply through your computer or through your smartphone. So again, we'd love for you to check out the To Write Love on Our Arms website, TWLOHA.com. Would love to invite you to participate in our Run For It 5K, which is coming up Saturday, May 16th. Want to touch on the 320 Festival again, which is May 8th, 9th, and 10th, happening online. Thanks to Linda Bennington, Kevin Lyman, and a whole bunch of amazing folks. I get to speak on a panel at the 320 Fest. Again, it's really the intersection of music and mental health. And we still have a little bit of our $10,000 matching grant, thanks to our friends at Healthline. So if you raise $20 today, it turns into 40. And so we're really excited about that. Again, we're about halfway to our goal of raising $85,000 through Run For It 5K. We've got close to 2,200 people signed up, and that's, I believe, represents every state in the US and 18 countries around the world. So there's a lot. Again, it's a privilege for me to show up on behalf of our team. We started doing these just as a way to still show up in a moment when all of our events have been canceled or postponed. So many of us are at home. Life looks different for nearly all of us. And so we wanted to continue to offer hope, continue to point to help. And so it's been really special for me to get to do that on behalf of our team. Thank you for being here today. Let's see, Tuesday. I don't have the date in front of me. Someone tell me what Tuesday is? 24th? Oh wait, no. I don't know what day it is. I will simply say we're doing this again on Tuesday. If anyone knows what number day that is, feel free to leave a comment. Tuesday is the 28th. I was off by 4 days. Thank you, Emily, former intern Emily. So Tuesday, we will have two more special guests. We will have Tanya Ingram, April 28th. Jess, hi. Okay, you guys are really contributing. Tuesday, April 28th. Yes. A couple people said May, and I got confused. We will have two awesome guests. Tanya Ingram is a spoken word poet who we love. We've done so much with her over the years. Tanya is from New York, now lives in Los Angeles. And then Kate Fagan, who, when we first met her, was with ESPN. And she is the New York Times best-selling author of the book, What Made Maddie Run? So we're excited to talk to Tanya and Kate on Tuesday, which you all have crowdsourced. It is April 28th. Thank you so much for spending an hour with me. Thank you again to Miles. We're going to get through this one day at a time. We might not know what day it is, but we're going to get through this. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you Tuesday. Take care.